Oh, hello. Welcome to Spencer's Book Club. My name is Spencer, and today we'll be talking about chapters 4 through 6 of Salem's Lot. Sorry about that. I let my inner bookworm come out, but I'm back to normal, so let's get things started. Now, with these chapters, I feel like Stephen King does a really nice job of taking that creepiness from the ending of chapter 3 and then spreading it nice and easy throughout the rest of these chapters, or at least chapters 4 through 6. You know, with every page, he seems to add another piece to the puzzle that is the Marston house, or Salem's Lot as a whole. You know, with Straker coming to that shop and buying a bunch of food and produce with money that hasn't been printed for 40 to 50 years, or having Danny come back after walking through the forest and telling that he doesn't remember anything, nothing is wrong in his medical reports, and then ends up dying in a hospital bed later that night. Stephen King just does an awesome job of very slowly building up the tension, even though at the end of chapter 3, the tension was so high with that dark figure standing in the cemetery. Stephen King does a really nice job of keeping people on the edge of their seat while they're piecing together the mystery of this town. Now, what I found really interesting in chapter 5 is that I feel like Stephen King actually gave us the answer to what the Marston house actually is through the conversation that Ben has with Susan. You know, when Susan asks him what his book is about, you know, Ben talks about how originally his plan was to be about the town, but the more and more time he spends there, the more obsessed he gets with the Marston house and who's living there and what the house actually stands for. Now, what I really liked about this conversation is that he called the Marston house a monument of evil, or a supernatural beacon, as it may. Now, during Ben's research of the Marston house, he comes up with a realization that whenever the house is occupied, bad things start to happen in Salem's Lot. Like how once Straker moved into the Marston house, that is when Ralphie Glick disappeared. Now, obviously, I think we all know that Straker is the vampire at this point. You know, him going and buying produce with money that is 40 to 50 years old. I feel like it's pretty obvious, but watching the people in the town start to realize, and that private investigator that goes and asks him questions, I'm excited to see how the town slowly figures out that Straker is this evil force. Or maybe he's not the evil force. Maybe it is the Marston house. I don't know. Stephen King makes me ask these kind of questions. Is it Straker or is it the house? It could be both. I don't know, I think it's an interesting topic. Going along with that, the other thing that I noticed in these chapters, I think especially in chapter 5, it seems that every single character, not just Ben, every once in a while looks up and sees the dark shape that is the Marston house on top of that hill. I just like how it seems that everybody in the town is obsessed with this house. Even if they don't realize that they're doing it, characters always seem to have their eyes drawn toward this house. Like it's drawing them towards, like all the evil in the town is coming from there, and it just draws people towards it. You know, the way Stephen King writes about that, I found very, very interesting. But I don't want to forget to bring this up, but the section in chapter 4 near the end where you get to see a bunch of conversations happen on the phone through the phone lines, I thought that part was really, really cool. Moving forward, I've also realized that I think my favorite chapters so far in this book are the ones that are just titled The Lot, the ones that have a general blanket over the lot so they could follow whatever character they want. You know, the chapters with Ben and Susan are cool, but when it talks about the lot as a whole, like for example in chapter 6, we get to see Danny's funeral, which is heart-wrenching, especially the part where the dad jumps into the grave, basically yelling at his kid to wake up and not be dead. It was awesome. And then right after that, with the grave digger thinking that somebody is watching them, then it figures out that it is actually Danny that is watching them because they forgot to shut his eyes. All of that, it's just so perfectly creepy, and it's a perfect addition to this town. You know, we've already heard so many messed up things happening in the town, but every single time another chapter that is just called The Lot, it's just Stephen King figures out how to stack more creepy things on top of each other. you know, the corpse looking at him, and at the very, very end with Dud Rogers, which I don't know if anybody else has made this connection, probably, but if you've read The Stand, doesn't Dud Rogers remind you of the trash can man? Just pointing that out. Anyway, the scene with him in the dump and this mysterious figure appears, probably Straker, probably, appears in his dump, and when he tells him to leave, he doesn't leave, and slowly creeps towards Dud having this conversation, and then slowly bites into his neck. It's really, really good. I'm really enjoying it. Now, one of the most interesting characters that I've found so far in this chapter, or in these chapters, especially chapter 6, is Father Donald Callahan. Now, even though we haven't had a lot of chance to actually get to know him, the sections in this, or the section in chapter 6 where it follows him in his apartment, him drinking and thinking about sin and the town and everything that's happening, it's just so real and so raw, and I would believe it that a priest in this town would feel that. With all the evil, with all the messed up stuff that happens in the town, I totally believe that a drunk father like that would be in this town, and how he thinks about this town, and it's full of sin, and just, he seems to be the most dynamic character. I don't know about the most dynamic character, but the most interesting character to watch, and I hope later on in the book we get to know more and more about his history. Well, everybody, that concludes our discussion on chapters 4 through 6. I hope everybody in the comments talks about what they liked about chapters 4 through 6 and joins the conversation. As a reminder, this is all about us reading this book together and having these conversations together. And if not, this is just me talking to a camera about the book I'm reading, which I'm totally fine with. But I would much, much rather you guys join the conversation, talk about what you like. The next video is going to be over chapters 7 through 9, so I hope everybody is reading along with me. In fact, I'm going to end this video right now so I can go and pick up and continue reading. I cannot wait to get back to it. So I hope everybody has a great, great rest of your day, great rest of your week, and I can't wait to see you guys next week. See you later.